Hello everyone, welcome to my channel again. Today I've got something really cool for you. Today we're gonna move to our next topic, which is Battleforge, or as it is called right now, Skylords Reborn. So if you want to play this game, which is for free by the way, just try to look up Skylords Reborn and you can participate in a great adventure. Okay, that was a bit of an exaggeration, but anyway, what you can see right now is basically a reiteration of a game that was released in 2009. It was probably the first well-functioning online real-time strategy game. Now, back in the day, you usually had solo campaign-focused strategy games that had an additional multiplayer mode, and this one here basically did it the other way around. As you can see here, you do have a world map. All you can see on the mainland is multiplayer campaigns, so PvE content. Although there's sort of a single-player mode as well. Some of the maps you can play on your own. This is the intro map, and here's like an entire campaign that is meant to be played solo. Then you have maps that are playable for up to 2 players at a time. Those ones are for up to 4 players, and these here are for up to 12 players. Pretty sick. This one right here, the separate aisle, is the PvP area, and yeah, it's very simple. Those here are unrated, and those here are rated dueling grounds. And what you can see in this sort of cloud in front of the coast of the mainland, that is the randomly generated PvE scenarios. This is the probably the most important game mode. Just explain the general rules of this game. As I said, it's a mix between a RDS game, although it's more like a real-time tactic game because you don't build a base from scratch. What you do instead is you build your deck, and then on the map you just click a card and play it. I mean, as long as you have the necessary resources at that time. That's clear. Let's say, let's just take this one. The Deep Color Worm, that's a creature. There's 3 general types of creatures, types of cards available, and that is creatures, spells, and buildings. And buildings, on the other hand, are also available in 2 main types. One type is defensive buildings, which is turrets, as this Twilight Bombard, and the other ones are supportive buildings, exactly as this card called Breeding Grounds is. Yeah, that's pretty much the most important stuff. Also, there's 4 different colors. All of them stand for a certain playstyle. You can also mix them. There is multicolor cards, as this Twilight Bombard, this Vile Blood, or this Death Glider. Those are, they're even presented this way. This one here, as you can see, is entirely green. This one here is red to the right, red to the left and green to the right. And you can basically mix all colors or play them as a singular color deck. Yeah, so much for that. You also have 2 in-game currencies, Battleforge points and gold. Gold is the true in-game currency. That was even the case back in the day, but Battleforge points, they have changed. Back in the day, they were, you've had limited access to them in-game, but the main amount of Battleforge points you will able to acquire by just spending real money in the game. And that really threw me off. I think I quit the game after, I believe it was 4 months. Yeah, 4 months after the game was released. When you play this game straight, and I've played this game for over 3 weeks straight by now, I think I've been able to purchase a booster every single day, which is pretty cool. That really lifts the motivation up to a level at which the game is just very fun to play, with almost no limitations. I'd say let's go ahead and play some. We're gonna go for a randomly generated map. And we choose this one because this here tells me it's difficulty 9. You can decide, excuse me, you can actually change the difficulty for any randomly generated map that you start a group for. The difficulty ranges from 1 to 10, and as you may thought, the higher the difficulty is, the harder the actual PvE map gets, in this case the randomly generated map, but also the more or the better rewards you can get if you basically master it. Oh, thought this is map of the month. Well, anyway, alright. As you can see here, this is the current amount of energy I have. Those things here are the power wells that grant me energy, and this one here is one of the 4 monuments in total that I'm going to have a bit later in the game, and that allows for summoning the most powerful creatures and spells that I have in my deck. Alright, with this deck I'm going to start with flying units, because they can only be attacked by ground units. This is pretty much the same concept as you can find it in Magic the Gathering. You know, generally speaking, there's lots of parallels between this game and Magic the Gathering. But back in the day, like in 2009 when this game was released, there has been no really good Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering PC game up to this point. Period. Right? So, I mean, I've played quite a few of them, and some of them were really fun, but none of them had the potential to keep my motivation to play that game on a really high level for a longer amount of time. Or like for a longer time period in general. Alright, what is also worth mentioning is that focus fire is really powerful in Battleforge, so you're usually way better off focusing a single unit, as if you just, you know, leave your units alone and let them choose their targets on themselves. So this is what I meant. Those are ground units. They cannot do anything against my flying units, which is quite an advantage. Alright, and here we have the first empty camp that reveals 2 power wells and also a monument. I don't have enough energy for that one right now, but I'll have in just a few moments. Alright, here we are. We build a fire one. And let's see. Our partner, so the friendly player that started at the very same side as we do, he's willing to start an attack on the first real enemy camp that also has buildings that are able to produce new units. In particular, those are these tents right here, so I just go right ahead and destroy one of them. What you just saw was a spell called Curse of Oink. You know, the green deck has really good CC. You can actually tangle units, so that means they're basically paralyzed. At least they can't move as long as they're paralyzed. Ooh, just throw in a healing spell real quick. Okay, so much for that. Let's get rid of these shamans real quick. Another thing that is pretty handy to know is you can only activate a power well or a new monument when you have a ground unit standing by, or like standing pretty close to it. Doesn't work with flying units, which is an obvious balance choice, which personally I find is very reasonable, because otherwise there's basically, let's just say you have way less reasons to ever play your ground unit, when even flying units are actually able to activate power wells and or a new monument. And as we did before, we now just have to wait till the next monument is ready to get activated. Really nice from my fellow player. He constructed a breeding grounds. That means that within a certain radius, which you can see right here, okay, it's actually not very good to see, but you may see this shred green line that's arranged in a circle. Within this radius, I can play my units, and a part of the energy cost is, you know, basically refunded to me afterwards. That's pretty handy. I also have this in my deck, but he already constructed one, so there's no need for me to waste any energy on it. And of course, I talked probably a bit too much because I'm already able to go for my second monument. This one here is special, by the way. Those cards are colorless. That means you can play them in basically any deck you can imagine. And they're usually better than comparable cards that are bound to a certain color, that costs, you know, that have similar summoning requirements. So this one here is better on average than other cards that require 3 monuments to play. But you know what? Let's see. This one a healing, and I'm gonna play my first bigger creature, which is my trusty Deep Coil Worm that you already saw in the Forge. This is actually really awesome because it allows you to do something productive. You know, checking the auction house. Oh, I didn't mention there's an auction house in the game, so if you have multiple copies of a card, you can sell it in case it's worth anything, of course. So there has to be players that are willing to buy it, unless it's pretty much worthless. But it's possible. And yeah, you can basically make your creatures contest against, you know, popular types of hostile units, which is pretty awesome. And to this day, I do not know any other online trading card game or real-time strategy for that purpose that gives you the same opportunity. This is one of the reasons why I think this game was really well thought and way ahead of its time. But you know, in case something is ahead of its time, it does not automatically mean that everyone loves it from the very first second. In case that was not so clear and not precisely described by me in the first place, is that you do have a time limit, as you can see right here. Now we have roughly 7.5 minutes left. Alright, that was that base. Now we continue our way towards the left edge of the map. So here's the next base. You know, this looks pretty simple, and we probably got the easiest of the hostile factions. This one here is called the Bandits. They have really standard units and not much crowd control that is unpleasant or anything. Then you have the Twilight, which is more nerve-wracking because they have, for instance, buildings that can paralyze entire armies till you destroy them. Then you have Lost Souls, which is considered to be the hardest faction at all, because they have incredibly hard-hitting creatures. They have really nasty passive buffs. You know, the nastiest thing is they can shield each other, so it's really hard to beat them down fast. Oh, and by the way, on each map you do have some of these chests, as this one right here. This one's already open. I always recommend to open this one because first, you do get an additional amount of gold per game, but secondly, you do have daily quests, and one of them, which is a really common one by the way, is that you have to open every single chest on a PvE campaign map or a randomly generated map, as this one right here is. So, for the sake of your fellas that may have this daily quest at that day, just go right ahead and simply open any single chest that you come across. So, alright, just put a breeding ground right here. Throw in a bit more healing spells. Just a few more that my comrade has it, or my comrade's creatures have a chance to regenerate. And face the new threat with a grin, like an even brighter one. Ah, he's already going for it. Very good. The units with a name above their heads, that's boss monsters. They're usually more tough than the average hostile unit. I mean, in this case, as you've seen, not really worth mentioning. But again, we're playing against against arguably the weakest of the hostile factions. So, I mean, it still happens that when you're on a randomly generated map, for the first few seconds, players, they just quit whenever they see, oh, we have to fight against Lost Souls. Alright guys, that's it for me. Bye bye, GG. Does not happen as frequently as it used to back in the day, but still very annoying. And, by the way, that's pretty much the opposite of annoying. We won. Alrighty, this is the final menu, and here you have like statistics, like who dealt the most amount of damage, who had the highest void power, which is another concept that I'm not explaining in detail this video. Then you can see how much gold we earned from the match, although this is kind of double because you can see it right here, but you can also see it in the standard loot on the standard loot screen. Yeah, here you can see that we acquired roughly 4,600 gold and almost 140 Battleforge points. Now, you may ask yourself why these are empty. Now, here you would usually get your secondary upgrades, but those are only obtainable when you play PvE campaign maps. So, oops. So one of these. In other words, you know, each time you upgrade a card, it always increases the level of the deck that your card is in. Due to the fact that the secondary upgrades have to drop and you can't just, you know, claim them, that means that getting your deck up to the max level of 120 has to do with a bit of luck, that's for sure. But actually, if you are able to get it to level 60 with the main upgrades, it usually means that your deck has already grown a lot and became way more powerful than it used to be in the very beginning. Alright, so much for this video. Thanks a lot for watching again, and hope to see you soon. See you around.